Right. All right, we are good to go. Yeah. Great. So, welcome to another session of Campus Connections digital series. This series is being hosted by the New Spaces, and today we're going to be talking about why you should have a career in FinTech. So, we discussed this topic and shared it with a lot of our partner universities, and therefore we've got a lot of questions that are already submitted. And again, if you have a particular question that you would like answered or wish to interact with our speakers, please do so over here. Before I introduce the two handsome gentlemen who are here with us in the studios, let me just give you a quick brief of why this particular topic is so important to be talked about. So the global fintech market is a very exciting space. Payments, transactions, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency are things that you read about in every kind of newspaper and media. It is the fintech industry, or rather the fintech market is valued at more than $1 trillion worth of value. In the first half of 2018 alone, there were investments which exceeded almost $80 billion, and that number will only exceed within 2019. Therefore, there's a very distinct kind of career option for a lot of young individuals who will be graduates this year and the next year. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome our guests. Right next to me is Abrar Mir, who's the Chief Innovation and Chief Financial Inclusion Officer at HBL. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And far away from me, but within reach, is Saleem Ropani, who's the founder and CEO of ForeePay. Hi, Saleem.
Hi.
And we're meeting after many, many years.
Absolutely.
All over again.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I think the best thing about the IT industry is the inclusion, because what goes around really comes around. You have met at various events, and we've had the opportunity to speak briefly. And Saleem, you know, the circle of entrepreneurship never ceases to amaze me. Yeah, and that's also one of the great things that we'll be talking about today. My name is Rabia Gharib, and I'm the chief editor at the New Spaces. We have a lot of universities who either have logged on or will continue to log on, and we'd like to welcome all the students through this session. Again, if you have a particular question for either Abrar Saab or Saleem, please do share that. Before we begin today's session, I would again like to give a shout out to Talia Zafar, who's the CEO of the New Spaces. Hi, Talia. She's the one who, amongst other things, have also envisioned the Campus Connections and the digital series, and so thank you for allowing all of us to be something bigger, be part of something much bigger than what we do on an everyday basis. So, Saleem and Abrar both, let's kick off the session today. What is FinTech mean to you? So, Abrar, let's start off with you.
Well, to me, FinTech means essentially any technology-based solution that can come in and make life simpler or come up with a different solution for the financial industry. There could be lots of things that the technology can do. It can help us improve our process, it can help us develop a new product or a service for our customer, it can help us go out and disintermediate certain other players from the industry, it can help us expand the range of lots of things that can be done leveraging the technology. So to me, FinTech is whenever somebody leverages technology to bring something to the financial industry and then that partnership is created, to me that is where we're looking at working with a FinTech.
Right. Saleem, you've set up a startup which has also raised a considerable amount of funding. But whereas the Abrar Saab's perspective is that FinTech is a solution for the banks, what is your perspective? What is your take on what does FinTech do for a company like yours, and what can you do for the market?
So, like Abrar said, I think what he meant was, we're leveraging technology to provide financial solutions, of course, at the end of the day, to the consumers. Now, they don't necessarily have to be, solutions or products that are consumer-facing. They could even solve problems for the bank, at the back office, allowing the banks to, operate much more efficiently.
Right.
So, anywhere, like you said, we're leveraging technology to help financial institutions offer their products and services to the consumer, of course, at the end of the day,
right,
in a much more cheaper, more efficient way.
Right. Is it easy to find find the HR, find the human capital required for the kind of disruption that or the kind of innovation that this sector needs? What about at HBL?
I think when you talk about in HR, there are different perspectives. One is a technical perspective, from a technology perspective, in terms of people who know
right.
or where the understanding of technology is that easy to come across? Certainly not. So
right.
that is a big challenge to begin with. But an even bigger challenge is, even if you come across people with certain skill sets, you see, having the understanding of the business, having the understanding of the challenges that the industry faces, and getting to that level of maturity or understanding where you can develop a good 360-degree view of the challenges, and then being able to think how a certain technology can come in and help solve that problem.
Right.
I think developing that level of understanding or maturity, that's an even bigger problem.
Right.
Because this whole phenomena is a very recent phenomena. We've all started, up until now it was generally like, you go on to the big boys of the world and go to the Oracles and the IBM and you just buy their applications. Yeah. But this whole thing of, because the technology now enables us to go out and quickly develop things on our own, so starting to do a lot of things internally on our own is a very recent phenomenon.
Right.
So the developers or the technology team that you get, their understanding of the businesses is not there as yet, where they can come in and start to add more value in the true sense.
Right.
So I think we're going through that process of evolution. It's not been a very old phenomena, but we already see some very exciting stuff.
I'm going to plan to follow up question with you, and while you and give you a chance to think about that. And while you think about that, I'm going to pose a question to Saleem. The follow-up question with you is: so how does this exposure? How can students or young startups at least expose themselves to this kind of learning? Should they be going to the web? Should they be doing internships? I mean, if you could kind of give like a 1, 2, 3 step kind of guidance as to what kind of a bouquet they should be doing. So that's the question for you, Saleem. From your side, so you're a startup, right? And I guess the biggest misconception with startups, and especially with these new startups, is that there's so much hype. Kids think that, or young startups think that we're going to make Facebook, we're going to get billions of dollars, we're going to be rich, super rich, overnight, and therefore they don't enter the entrepreneurial ecosystem. What would you suggest? At what point should a startup actually be take shape? Be set up.
So I think your previous question and this question work together well.
Thank you.
So I think as a startup, CEO's number one job is hiring, finding the right human capital. That human capital then enables you to, of course, develop a product market fit, develop a minimum viable product, and then also, of course, help you distribute, sell it, and just developing the product or having an idea absolutely means nothing, right? Even if you have a very good product, if you can't distribute it, it's not going to work, right?
Right.
So being an entrepreneur or running a startup is not just about having an idea or even building the product. You have to necessarily be able to distribute it, and so you need to partner, like Abrar mentioned previously, be it with banks, be it with other technology companies who already maybe have a distribution infrastructure in place. So as a CEO of a startup, your number one job is, or my number one job is actually finding the right talent to enable a business to, of course, be able to operate.
Right, and if I could flip around before I come back to Abrar Sahab, is at what point should a university student think about setting up their own business? Should it be in the first year? Should it be within their 20s? Kind of a guidance roadmap based on your experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I can do. I can just share what I've learned in my experience,
yeah.
But I can't tell anybody what to do. There have been absolute success stories right out of universities, even before people have graduated, of course. But they are very, very few.
Yeah.
They're absolute exceptions. But if somebody, if it was my kid or if somebody was asking me for this, I would first ask them to, get a career in something they, are passionate about. Learn how it works. Learn how the product development works. Learn how sales are done. Learn how finances work. Learn how hiring is done. Learn human psychology. If you're going to be a leader tomorrow, you have to understand how different people within an organization work together. And once you feel you are in a position where you can lead a group of people, that's when you basically because you'll always find ideas to work on.
Right.
You'll always be able to come up with a team if you dedicate the right amount of effort into it. You just need to have those jobs first ready.
When you say the jobs, have the experience, work experience there, correct?
Absolutely. In a very professional environment.
Of course, Abrar. So the step-by-step kind of guide to how to get exposed to the right kind of stuff, right kind of exposure.
I think again, technology has not transformed that whole philosophy. So in our good old days when we started out, it would always be like, go get a job, learn something, experience and all of that. But now because of the technology and so much material is out there, I think it's important that first of all, it's important to know that you've got a passion for something. So that passion is extremely critical. Once you have that passion and you have certain hypothesis or a certain view around certain things, then you can go to the web, and the web is full of information.
Yeah.
You can go look for an internship so that you can get your hands dirty with some practical stuff as well. So that's another option. I personally think that academia needs to be encouraged to engage more aggressively with the industry as well. And that industry-academia dialogue needs to happen, whereby the industry can also come to the academic setting and share with the students as to what are the challenges that we as professionals are facing and how the younger lot that is coming out of the colleges with better ideas, with much better understanding of the technology can help us find those answers. So there are lots of ways that one should go about to find more information. I would not say that there's just only one particular way. Good old times, yes, probably there was a very simple structure.
Yeah.
But now I think the options are so many and so widely available. The key thing is that the person needs to have a passion and the person needs to have a strong commitment towards whatever hypothesis or thought process or an idea that they have in their mind.
So were you like this when you were in university?
When I was in university, all we knew was, I was in the university in the US where in the basement there was those old computers with that green screen and you would type something and something would come back and we were programming in COBOL and Pascal and whatever else and C++ at that time was something, wow, we've got C++ and we got these small diskettes that came out and we were so excited.
Right.
So unfortunately, we did not have the luxury. So yes, the only thing we could do was read some books or read some magazines and whatever was there, try and develop some understanding, but it was mostly interacting with the people.
Right.
But now with the web out there, there's so much of information that is available
that
you really don't need to go out and do anything.
Right, and in addition to the web and to the wealth of experience that you can get through internships, through jobs, there are an increasing number of very, very good people who are, like you said, as long as they are able to go into the universities, talk, share their experience and exposure, it's global. I mean, we've got people logging in from different parts of the world even today because they find the subject matter interesting and because they find both of you interesting. But I just wanted to kind of play a really silly joke and say that, you were from before this time, much before this time.
Before this time.
But that's the pace of innovation today.
I'm from the time when
the daisy wheel was there.
School we got the Commodore 64 and I was so excited.
Oh wow.
It had a cassette that would go in and you would have that ping pong player that would be playing and you were all excited.
I grew up with the Texas Instruments machine, so just around about that time.
But that's how fast things today go, out of fashion or even out of use because this disc came into being in Abrar in my lifetime.
Right.
It was a state-of-the-art product while it was, of course, being used. And today, you're using it as a coaster.
Yeah.
So it's completely, gone. So,
And you get extra points. I'm sorry, Abrar Sahib. You get extra points because you said that this is the pace of innovation where the floppy disk was around in both of your time.
Right.
So you're trying to hide my age, and I sincerely appreciate that.
The thing to notice is that we're still using them.
We're still using
We're
it.
finding ways to use them.
absolutely.
Not giving
I mean,
up.
just talking of the pace of innovation,
Right.
day before yesterday, I was sitting at home watching some series, and somebody was using BlackBerry.
Oh.
And I said to my wife, and just look at it, it's not very long ago, just a couple of years ago.
Right.
BlackBerry was the thing.
Yeah.
Now, probably a lot of younger kids don't even know what that thing is.
Absolutely.
So it's the pace of change is phenomenal.
Right. I don't
Very
know.
exciting.
I don't know if it was the movie Pretty Woman or My Best Friend's Wedding. One of these, classic Julia Roberts, where she whips out this cell phone, which is this huge brick, the Motorola machine, Motorola Ericsson machines that used to come. And I mean, it's like holding this computer on your ear and moving around. And kids today, they watch that and they say, "Ye kya hai?" And we've been through that time. There was a question that was submitted from an investor perspective, and perhaps it would be interesting to get both your take on it. What does an investor look for in a fintech startup?
So I think there are two very important things. Your product has to have a product market fit, and along with it, you have to have a viable business model.
Right.
And once if you can articulate that well, present that well, how you execute on that, I think that's about it. It's not very complicated. It may sound like it. Yes, it's very hard work.
Right.
It's not easy. But the formula is simple in my opinion. Product market fit that you have of your idea, and a very viable business model.
Right.
That's it.
I'm curious, how long did you work? Did you have to work on the concept of ForeePay before you were able to raise interest in people investing into it?
So me and my co-founder have been having conversations since 2010.
Oh wow!
And then we saw something coming along that we were thinking about, and we said, okay, this is done. And something else we thought about that also came along, and we said, okay, right, this is also done. We did not want to be another Me Too product.
Right.
So we just waited, and then about 2 years ago, we realized that there was something completely absent from the entire ecosystem, and we could build something to help everybody: the banks, the consumers, the regulator, the state, other fintechs, essentially, by partnering with them. So we said, let's do this because nobody's doing this.
Right.
It's not easy what we're doing, but it's a lot of fun, definitely. And I think so far, industry has been very supportive.
Right. So it's interesting that you say you and your co-founder were having a conversation about it for almost 7 years before you actually put it into effect.
Absolutely.
But that brings me back to one of the initial questions that I had asked. That nothing happens overnight.
Absolutely.
You have to do your due diligence of what is available, what the market needs, exactly what the both of you have been talking about before you say that now I'm ready to do this. But there's such a fine line between waiting that long, doing your research, and being the first one out there, almost ahead of the curve. When you look, because you also run the Innovation Challenge at HBL, when you look at solutions and products, do you look for who's out there first, or who has all the ingredients that Saleem just talked about?
I think what Saleem just said, if I could just add one more element to that, the third critical element that if I was an investor, I would look at, or even for that matter, when I'm looking to engage with some entities in my current role as well as the team.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The quality of the team, the breadth of experience, because if you've got 5 very smart software developers who join together to do a business, that's not really the best situation to be in.
He's nodding so hard, I think the
But
table
if
is
you've got
default. Yes.
3 software developers, one somebody with marketing background, somebody with finance, somebody who can bring some legal expertise into it, so that when an investor is looking at you, the investor looks at you, or any other entity is looking at engaging with you, they know that you are thinking of yourself as a corporate entity. You're
Right.
not thinking of yourself as just some idea that's going to go out and do something.
Yeah.
So that corporate ID thought process, that structuring of the organization is extremely critical when you're looking at somebody.
Right.
Because even if I was to engage with a startup, I will have concerns about, are they really serious about it?
Yeah.
Are they going to be around? If I take their product and I expose millions of my customers to it, so I'm betting my reputation now
Of
on
course.
the offering that I'm making out there.
Absolutely.
Will this service be around? Will they be
Absolutely.
able to support me as I scale up? Will they be able to evolve as we scale up? How committed are they?
Right.
Do they have the capacity? Do they have the maturity? Do they have the understanding? So lots of those things that come into play when you're looking at a potential startup to engage with.
Right. The word I think we're all talking about is longevity.
Yeah.
Are you just rolling out an app on the App Store and the Play Store, or is it that you are actually setting up a business that is worth that is going to be worth something more and bring value to an institution? You know, so I guess in the fintech, in the financial ecosystem, so you have traditional banks, and those are institutions, regardless of the fact that we struggle with the banked with the population of various countries that are banked. There's a large population that still needs to have access to these kinds of institutions through fintechs. And am I using that correctly?
Sure, absolutely.
So I guess the word we're looking for is longevity and sustainability. How long did it take you to? So once you started working as a startup, how long do you think it is before you can approach institutions, traditional institutions, who are generally very risk averse, and convince them that yes, this is the product that you have to partner with?
So we went down in 3 months,
Okay.
but that was not to sell,
Okay.
right? That was to get the product validated, right?
Right.
So we found somebody who was already selling, products into banks. We showed our product to them,
Okay.
and we asked them, can you take us into banks where we can validate our product? So if you're not selling, everybody's more than happy to look at your idea and your product and give you some valuable feedback, which is very relevant.
Right.
Because they are at the banks, dealing with their customers and their products every day, day in and day out. So we developed a minimum viable product within 3 months,
Right.
and just took it to some of the banks, 2 banks actually, and they were very helpful. They gave us very honest, brutal feedback. We came back, worked on it, went back again in another month, and since then we've been rolling on.
There's no real place for ego in this kind of
Absolutely.
thing, right? Because it just gets crushed no
Absolutely.
matter what you do.
So you're developing a product that has to be for the consumer,
Right.
not for yourself.
Right.
If it's for yourself, then you don't have necessarily a business.
Absolutely. There's a question that's been sent in, actually a couple. So Najmus Sahar asks, what do you think for the people who are not having technical background, can they easily adjust into a fintech? So I'm assuming this is from a hiring perspective. So what kind of careers are open for people who may not have a financial background, may have a technical background, and sorry, the other way around, may not have a technical background but have a strong financial background? What kind of careers are the possibility in both?
So I mean, everywhere, even in Europe, America, be it in China, India, CEOs of technology companies don't necessarily are technologists themselves. They're good CEOs. They know how to build a good team. They know how to put together a good corporate governance structure in place with their investors. They know how to go about putting the right people in the right positions to enable them to do what they're doing.
Right.
They just have a very good vision. They have perseverance to see it through. And like Abrar just said, they know how to build that team
Right.
that will enable them to develop a product that has a product market fit, has a team that can do distribution, do
Right.
sales, make sure that their product is compliant in terms of regulations, etc. So it's, I think, perfectly fine if you can build a team of technologists and product managers, regulatory experts, compliance experts, risk management experts. You can do anything. Anybody can do anything.
Of course.
With the right skill set. So, but it's not imperative that somebody needs to have a technology background just to
Right.
be in a technology business.
But somebody who has a a sound passion, a great passion for finance. I can't imagine anyone like that. But so I'm being biased. Somebody who has a sound financial background. In today's day and age, do institutions and banks prefer people who have a sound technical background? Or do you say that finance then, because they understand kind of the business of banking and the financial sector, that they will be a better fit? What kind of people are you looking for in a traditional banking institution?
Well, again, there are two parallel kind of structures that are running. One is the true conventional banks,
Right.
which is your branch services and branch customers and all of that. Obviously, you're looking at a certain skill set which is not necessarily very technology oriented, but which is more about
The business,
customer
financial,
servicing, being able to manage customer relationships, being able to offer products and services, etc. So that's a different skill set. Then you come in toward other part of the bank, which is engaging in bringing new technology, developing new things and all of that. That's where you're looking for people with also strong technical background. But having said that, like for example, in my structure today, I've got a very strong technology team. But that technology team is equally dependent on a strong product team that can conceptualize ideas, that can come up with new ideas, that can come up with new solutions, that can work with customer-facing teams as well to look at things from a customer perspective, develop a new product, think of new ways of taking a service or a product to the customer, and then explaining that to the technology team on how to translate that requirement into a technical solution. So there will always be a combination of the two.
Okay.
So I think if you don't have a technology background, but if you have a very strong understanding of some other areas, like for example, compliance, controls, finance, AML, you've got a great understanding of a customer's needs, and you can translate that into strong product concepts for the organization. I think any organization would love to have you, regardless of whether you have a technical background.
Like FinTech, right?
Yes.
It's an amalgamation of two words.
Right.
Technology itself can't do anything to solve financial problems or challenges if you don't really understand the challenge.
Yeah.
So you have to have that expertise on board, where somebody from the banking industry. That's why it's a very good partnership, right? Because they know what challenges they're facing, but they have, of course, different priorities at the moment, where they're not necessarily into building technology solutions.
Yeah.
So they go out and partner with somebody who can develop that technology solution for them. So somebody, like you said, who has expertise in something that's not technology, either they can go out and hire a fantastic team of technologists.
A fantastic team.
A fantastic, or they can also, of course, find a good partner, co-founder. Right.
And while both of you have been responding to this, to Najma Sahar's question, there's a word that's been kind of floating in my head, and that is a pain point. So, as long as either the institution and the various departments and people that work there, because they are more consumer facing, you have the bulk of the customers that your partners will then try and solve problems with. It is incredibly important that the institution be aware of what pain points the customers have. And because the institution itself seems to be that, you have a lot of legacy, you have a core business, once you identify the pain points, then you can identify the number of partners that will help you resolve that pain point. So coming back to your, is your product a good fit for the market? Is it a minimum? Do you have a minimum viable product there? Do you have a good team? I think that is probably the most sound and sage advice that you can get from these two gentlemen here when trying to set up your own business. There's another question that was sent across, which was a little interesting. Nate, what are three of the biggest challenges for a fintech startup in Pakistan? And I have a feeling, based on listening to you, these are very similar to things that we've already talked about. So we'll just give a quick run through.
I think one of the biggest, the primary challenge is that we have a population of about 200 million people, 100 million adults, but they're not all necessarily very, informed, educated in terms of technology, right? What that does is, of course, that results in the regulator having, more stringent regulations forced to protect the consumer at the end.
Right.
That's their intent, to make sure that he's not abused. but then that also makes the business case difficult for the banks to take into a product or a solution. So I think these are three primary challenges. Having a population that's not necessarily well informed, which leads to, of course, more tighter regulations, which leads to a more difficult business case for the partners, fintechs and the banks, to roll out a product or a solution.
Would you like to add?
And I think that all adds up to making it a bit difficult to get really creative with your ideas or concepts that you would want to roll out.
Yeah.
So now you look around yourselves and you look at the developed markets and you get inspiration with a certain idea, but very soon you realize that the environment just does not allow you to go out, and it's not conducive. Although the population is facing that problem, although that solution is needed, but then at the same time the market, the regulatory environment, overall environment in the country is not ready to allow you to take that particular solution out there. So I think it's. But having said that, in the last 2 years, the kind of traction that I see, the kind of near explosion that you see out there, I think it's probably one of the most exciting times to be in this space.
Right.
So anybody who has the desire, the passion, the willingness, the ability to go out and be on their own, I would say this is just the best time to be in that space.
Right, the only time I see you smiling is when you're actually answering a question. So then that means that fintech is extremely exciting, Otherwise,
It is.
Well, that's why it's a
We're just supposed to be boring.
No, the color of your tie is very, very good. So you also win points there. Actually, next time I think we need to keep track of these points and see who actually wins. There's a question that was sent in earlier is, do you think the uptake or acceptance of financial technology solutions, the more innovative and the more risk-averse, is better in developing worlds or in emerging markets? And can you explain why?
So I don't think that's the case. I think as long as there is a product that has value, the uptake has been great even in developed markets. There are products like there are digital banks like Starling, Monzo, N26 out of Germany, TransferWise, Point, another point of sale for merchants. They're developing an operating system for point of sale. Very audacious idea. Square, So as long as there is a product that has value for its customers, it's I don't think it's confined to just emerging markets. Even developing markets are at the moment adopting very new cutting edge financial technologies.
Right. There's also a question that was sent in, and I'll bat it straight to you, Abrar. Why does it take banks such a long time to innovate?
Well,
would you like some water for that?
No, I think the challenge is it's important for people to understand, and I go to lots of forums where I get this
really hammered
bashing.
Yeah,
it's the favorite subject, so we've kind of gotten used to it. We're still trying to figure out the right answer, but I think that the real challenge is we work in a very tightly regulated environment. So we've got to be conscious of lots of things. When you go out and you try to do something different, then you've got to engage with the regulators, you've got to engage with lots of departments within the organization who obviously have their own role to play.
Right.
So they are there because the banks are in the business of managing risk.
Right.
So different functions, their roles are to ensure that nobody goes rogue and starts to do something which is not. So hence, the banks do it in a more deliberate manner. And that's why it sounds like and it looks like it's a very slow-moving structure. Vis-a-vis, like Saleem, he's his own man. He can get up today and he can say, this is what I want to experiment with and I want to deploy it today.
He can also get up and say, I don't want to wear a tie.
Yeah. I envy him for that. So that's the difference. So it's not that the banks are not interested in innovating. It's not like the banks don't understand that innovation is important. I mean, obviously, the banks have moved from
Of course.
paper to ATMs to mobile apps to now doing mobile app based account openings,
Yeah.
etc. So all sorts of things are happening today. But the pace is gradual and slow because it's always a deliberate thing. We can't afford to go out and just say, you know what, because Abrar woke up this morning with this idea, so he's going to make it happen today. That's not how it works. So that's the only reason. So it's not for the lack of desire or lack of appreciation or lack of understanding that innovation is required or a change is required or there are better and different ways of doing things.
Right.
It's only because the pace has to be managed. It has to be a deliberate thing.
Right. And the word you used was quite accurate, that you can't afford to move any faster because it is people's money that you are custodians of,
I also like to look at it from another perspective,
Okay.
which is that banks, by nature are a financial services provider. So I think banks have innovated. Innovation does not necessarily mean just developing software, right, or technology. Pakistani banks have come up with very innovative products. Yes, there's room for more, but they have. Even the branchless banking infrastructure that we see today in place that has enabled a vast amount of financial inclusion. I think the banks actively worked with the state bank on drafting regulations for that.
Yeah.
So they have innovated. They have innovated towards financial products and services, not necessarily, of course, technology, but then maybe they don't need to because they can partner with technology companies.
Right.
Because they're, like you said, we can afford to do that much quicker. And that enables the banks to actually deliver that technology or innovation much faster to their consumers. So I think when you say the word innovation, the banks have innovated. They've done a great job at that in terms of financial services and products. But when you say technology services and products, I think they've partnered and that's what they should be doing. And they are doing.
And so if I could just add one
Sure.
more thing, I think in terms of when we talk about financial sector, we tend to kind of zoom in and say the banks,
Right.
insurance companies,
Yeah.
asset management companies, leasing entities. So there are so many other players that have to come in and play an equal part. So it's going to be an incremental thing. So if insurance companies evolve and do something interesting, that will have a ripple effect on something else as
Right.
well. If the mutual funds or the asset management entities, they go out and they get creative in terms of the products that they offer. Because today, if you are a typical retail investor sitting in a small town, you have no way of investing in the stock market.
Absolutely.
So there's those kinds of huge opportunities that exist in different parts of the financial services ecosystem.
Right.
And as long as each one of those players are doing something, I think the evolution will happen.
It's really interesting you bring up the stock exchange also, because we did a story on the Pakistan Stock Exchange a couple of months ago, and so we talked to the CIO there and with their marketing department, and they said one of the challenges that they struggle with is lack of awareness. That now that because from a regulatory perspective, they have enabled so that small investments can be made. It's just that people don't know about it. So it's a lot. Oftentimes, you are very right in saying that a lot of these different institutions and players, stakeholders, have actually made steps towards innovation. It's just that the market has to now follow through.
Yes.
But it's always important to kind of lay out the foundation first, and then kind of test it out. So your alpha, beta stages, and everything, and then say, okay, this is the main product. There are a couple more questions that have come in. We're going to take them quickly. Uwais Ahmed asks, how is fintech changing the way we operate in the Pakistan industry? We've talked about this, but if you can just quickly... How we operate that one. How we operate in the Pakistan industry.
I think
in terms of payments, for example.
At this point, it's too early to say anything because it's a very new phenomenon.
Yeah.
So the fintechs are starting to become partners with the banks. So it's more of a pilots that are happening at this stage. Nothing really has scaled up. So I think maybe this question would be something that we can revisit maybe a year later.
Yes, we'll book you in, so
at
you
this
can
point,
join
I think
us.
it's too early to
You
say.
can join us again on December 6th, 2019,
Yeah,
and Abrar Mir and Saleem will be
absolutely.
back
Absolutely.
to address this particular question. You want to say anything? Or?
No, I think.
So I will answer the question in one way, in terms of how it has disrupted some kind of behavior. So for the more tech-savvy consumer, perhaps, so phone payments, utility bill payments, so you don't have to stand in line, go there physically. So perhaps in terms of payment and the way we transact and interact with our bills, that has definitely changed. Danielle Sumbul asks, there's a problem of data security challenges. How can this issue be resolved? It's a very big question, and I'm just going to filter it down and put it to you.
So there are two kinds of security, right?
Yep.
If I were to simplify this, like you said, data security. So one is, of course, your identity theft, right? That data can be stolen from anywhere. Your wallet, your receipts that you throw out, or the paperwork that you have at home. So that's not necessarily the data that resides only inside the bank. But then there's financial data, right? With regards to the information you have, of course, with the bank, but also your transaction information, etc. I think because we're discussing financial industry, banks have very good measures in Pakistan, at least, to safeguard the consumers' data. Recently, there was an incident, but that was a very, very minute incident. Unfortunately, it was all over the news, and there was a lot of misinformation,
right.
Disseminated, distributed about it. But look at some of the leading technology, economies, America, Europe, etc. There's trillions of dollars of fraud, and I'm sure they read about it on blogs and websites every day. But Pakistani banks have been very proactive. They have I think excellent CIOs and CISOs in place. They're very prudent about these things. The regulator itself is very prudent about these things, and I think this incident was a very minor incident, which should not affect the credibility of the financial institutions. I think they've done a very good job at safeguarding the data of their customers. Until recently, they weren't even sharing this information with the government.
Right.
So I think that's a misconception unnecessarily. Otherwise, they've done a very good job at this.
Okay.
Data security is a challenge. It will remain a challenge. It continues to be a challenge in the most developed economies as well. I mean, just a couple of days back, we read about this famous hotel chain, and they came out and they said 500 million customers' data was taken away. So I think that's a reality we live in. It's a constant struggle with the people who are out there trying to do something nasty and the people who are trying to protect. But the important thing is that the institutions, the financial industry, the regulator, they all realize, they understand, and they continue to invest and work very proactively and aggressively in ensuring that the best of the capabilities and the resources available, that the data protection is made.
And that may also be an area where somebody can innovate. And banks would love that.
Yeah. How to in data security, most definitely. And also coming back to one of the points you made earlier, Rasab, is this is the technology evolves so quickly. Today what we think is secure may not be. So there are always vulnerabilities because they're very smart people, always sharing a lot of information. The entire web is open to these trends. And so there's always someone or the other who will figure out a vulnerability and then try and exploit that. And it's the more communication we have amongst not just local partners also, but also regionally and internationally. And that's the role of media also that comes in. And the more knowledge sharing we have, the more secure we are as a people. A couple more questions. Javeria Abbas asks, hang on. There was a question I wanted to pose, which I can't. Rohan Nadeem asks, doesn't the arrival of blockchain make fintech a risky choice in the Pakistani scenario, since our techs tend to be traditional banking based?
So blockchain is just another technology. It's a ledger technology. It can be leveraged for everything, not just financial services, for any kind of smart contracts. So blockchain has nothing to do with necessarily threatening fintechs. It's actually just another kind of technology that the technology companies and fintechs and of course financial institutions will leverage to develop new solutions which are more resilient to attacks and faster in terms of offering value to the consumers.
Okay.
I think it's just another technology that I think the fintechs can leverage.
Right.
But of course, it's still in its infancy. It's still very, very immature. It still needs to go through its phases. To this day, I think blockchain is struggling to find a commercial viable, application.
Right.
There's a lot of experimentation that's going on. The banks themselves overseas are working on it, but at the moment everything is in beta or experimental stages.
Right.
But yes, it has a lot of promise for the future.
Shahriar Saleem asks, what should incumbents do about all this? About data security. Do they need a fintech strategy? Do they need a fintech strategy? Yes.
Like I said, I mean,
There are cybersecurity solutions. If somebody can come up with a better solution, absolutely.
Yeah. There's how can fintech overcome job crisis issues in Pakistan? Daniel Sumbal asks that. There's a job crisis situation in Pakistan. So I'm going to, this kind of, Daniel, I'm going to rephrase this. How can entrepreneurship solve the job crisis situation that we have in Pakistan?
Well, everybody can do their part. More businesses that come into existence, that hire obviously more people, creating jobs, not just technology jobs. I'm sure when people get hired into jobs, they take that money back home, or put it back into the economy where they're spending it. So it's that circle of life that money revolves in. So you hire a new maid maybe, and an extra driver at home, a bigger house that needs a gardener maybe. You go out more, you pay the valet guy a bit more. The restaurants are doing business, so in turn hire more waiters and chefs. So as long as we can create more entrepreneurship and activities, opportunities in businesses. I think that all adds up to creating more jobs, and not just jobs. Those jobs then, of course, generate tax revenue for the government. That's the economic engine, basically. So we're trying our best to do our part. I'm sure clients are doing theirs.
Yeah. There's one question that I was looking for. So Isa Ali Jafar writes, how is it different from other competitors in market like SimSim, Finja? So I think they're talking about ForeePay. So ForeePay, and why would a user be attracted towards it?
Sure.
Why would anyone use your product?
Right. So a few minutes ago we discussed about some companies in emerging markets. So SimSim is one of them, and they have a fantastic even payroll product that I'm a big fan of. But our product is not necessarily a wallet.
Right.
SimSim is a wallet. Finja is a wallet. Essentially, what we do is we're essentially providing the infrastructure, the rails for enabling all these players, be the banks, financial institutions, or microfinance banks, or wallet providers, even the card schemes, to integrate with, to offer interoperability essentially.
Right.
Wallets have a particular challenge, banks have their own challenges, microfinancial institutions have their own challenges. We're trying to help everybody create a product that adds to everybody's value essentially.
Right. Abrar Sahib, I'm going to throw this last user question to you. Daniel Sumbal also asks No, I'm going to ask you this one. Vakas Ansari asks, how long do you think it will take before Pakistan will become a cashless society?
That's a multi-billion-dollar question. If I knew the answer, I guess I would be the Superman around.
Yep.
I think that's something that everybody wishes.
Right.
But even if you look at the developed economies, the more developed economies, even they are struggling to become cashless. So I think cashless may not be a realistic expectation. Cash light is probably a more realistic expectation. And we would hope that in the next couple of years, as mobile wallets become a more predominant way, or even with the banks itself, people start to use more mobile apps, so they start to become more cash light. instead of expecting the whole economy to become cashless in the near future. I really don't have a clear view on that one, but certainly I think the next couple of years we do see a potential to become cash-like.
Cash-like. And I think one of the ways that this, to become towards cash-like and even perhaps towards cashless is, again, it actually falls on the online players. So, for example, online shopping places like Evo and Daraz and stuff, if, I've already seen them making continuous incentives that if you buy online, order online, you will get extra % off as opposed to going into a store. The fashion brands where, peer chal chalti hai, lawn khuliya, ye sab khuliya. If you buy online, you will get an incentive. And as long as those incentives continue to grow, that's the first step towards incentivizing people to move online and cash-light. We're going to start off with a rapid-fire round.
This is that.
Oh,
This is that. That's for you. So the rules of this rapid-fire round are very simple. I'll give you a statement. One of you will ring the bell, and whoever does will have to answer the question. Saleem, do not try and make Abrar sir answer all these questions.
he doesn't know that by default I move very slowly, so it takes me very long to get to the bell.
All right.
I've got my strategy figured out.
Okay, come on. Now we've got an audience who has to see, who has the fastest reflex. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a test question. So, what is your name?
Oh, I
I was supposed to
answered
go
well
do
without
that.
actually, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, the question I have for you is, which country has the highest number of FinTech users?
The users. I'm
Saleem?
guessing China.
China? That is correct. That was painless and easy. Okay. I actually don't have the answer there, so I'm also figuring out that yes, this is correct. The next question is, which are the most used fintech services in the developed markets? Is it? You don't need options?
I can guess.
Okay.
I think it's mostly the payments.
Yeah.
Then the second is the crowdfunding-based lending models.
Yeah.
And the third is again payments. One is consumer payments, the other is the Squares and the
Right.
Klarna
So money
and
transfer and
Stripes
payments.
kind of
Right.
services that are enabling those payments.
Right. Saleem, I think we need to move this a little closer. There we go. Aap thoda pani chani pee le. All right. Which one best describes your company? Is it A, investing during an economic slump, or B, investing when times are good?
We're investing in our company because I think, like Abrar said, this is one of the most exciting times to be in our space. So absolutely.
Okay. You have to ring the bell again.
Well, it's the bell.
It's the bell. Okay, done. Good. So investing during regardless of an economic slump or
Sure.
good time. So investing in yourselves constantly. Next question. In your opinion, which, and this is a little biased, so try and remain unbiased. In your opinion, which bank in Pakistan today is open to embracing innovation and why?
Loud enough.
Not enough. I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
Abrar Sahab?
I think the answer to that lies in going out and seeing which bank has a senior executive with a job title that says innovation and inclusion in there.
All right, so we must
So
tell you,
that
yes. So Abrar
would
Mir,
be-
Abrar Mir is the Chief Innovation and Financial Inclusion Officer
at HBL.
What a fantastic plug. And not only that, you have a very nice bright tie.
Yep.
All right, next question. So you would say HBL.
Yeah, I think there are others that are working at it, who probably have a head start, who started focusing on it. At the end of the day, the reality is we alone won't make a huge difference in terms of, so it's important that all the others, they do play their part because it will have to be a collective effort at changing the behavior of the consumer
Right.
at the end of the day.
I'm going to put you on the spot and say, in addition to HBL, in your experience, who do you see who is more open to embracing innovation?
So we've seen, Mizan Bank doing a lot of innovation. So the banks that are growing fastest, essentially, right? It may not necessarily be technology innovation, like I said, but like financial product innovation, right? Bank will be They're growing fast. So some of the banks, Ally Bank recently has been doing a good job. Seeing some products from them that are very good. HBL, of course, like Abrar already mentioned. So there are plenty of banks that are, and this is a very competitive industry. So it's imperative that one bank has had a head start. The others will definitely follow and maybe also catch up as
And it
fast as
will also
possible.
be depending upon bank to bank. I think certain banks might choose to focus on a certain area more than the others. So you'll continue to see one bank coming up with something which is different from the others.
Right.
And that's how we're all going to evolve.
My second last question, and really, really quickly, what is your one pet peeve about young startups? One pet peeve.
I'm a young startup myself.
Well, again, let me just put that disclaimer out there that this is all of these are my personal opinions, not reflective of my organization's views. I think, in my experience, whenever I deal with a lot of these startups, I just get very excited by the idea. I see a lot of passion, but a couple of things that I see missing are, number one, again, the breadth in the team in terms of the experience and whatever else. That kind of deprives them of the opportunity to synthesize the idea, to synthesize the thought process, and to further refine their pitches. And the second thing is, again, they don't invest early enough in understanding the corporate realities in terms of putting a corporate structure around their company. Because what they don't realize is that as they start up and they go to a certain stage, beyond that stage, if they're looking for a professional investor to come in, they would want to come in and see what kind of a legal structure do you have.
Right.
What kind of bookkeeping have you been doing? So if you go out and you claim, I've invested $100,000 of my own, they're going to ask, demonstrate.
Yep.
So bookkeeping, putting a proper corporate structure with that view that you are going to look for more institutional investors coming in. So those, I think, in more structural thought processes that are missing, that's something that I really find hard.
So the systems in place, the structure in place, and again, a business as opposed to just a product.
And second, again, I've come across some startups who would come in and who would say, we are just looking for 10 million rupees.
Yeah.
Then you sit down and you ask them, why are you looking? Because we want to do this. So then you say, but you can do a proof of concept with 800,000 rupees. So if you were to go and ask somebody to give you 800,000 rupees so that you can do a proof of concept, your likelihood of raising the next 10 million multiplies many-fold. But if you go and ask somebody to give you 10 million upfront, when you have nothing really to show for it, you're making your life so much difficult for yourself.
Absolutely.
So again, having that understanding of how to position yourself, how to first go out and do a small-scale proof of concept, and then use that as an evidence to go out and ask for more investment. So these are the couple of things that I've noticed in my experience with the interaction.
मैंने वैसे जुमला pet peeve कहा था, आपने
Peeve
peeves
नहीं
कह
है,
दी. Just one
peeve नहीं है, these are just the general thoughts.
Just one last question, so it's open to the both of you, and I'd like both of you to comment. It's one last closing comment about why should a career in fintech be looked at, and very briefly, so that we can then wrap up the session.
It's exciting times. It's an exciting thing to do.
Come
Why
on,
not?
say it loudly like you mean it.
I mean it. I think it's exciting times and it's an exciting thing. Why not?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Pakistan, with the 6th largest population on the planet, at the moment is a green field for this. There's just unlimited opportunity, for innovation and financial technology, basically. So I think that's the number one reason. You have a market that's ready. Now it's getting more informed, better educated. Companies, and even telcos, banks have invested a lot of money in educating the customers onto bringing them over to maybe mobile apps or financial transactions over mobiles or over the counter with the branchless banking exercise. It's just a green field with just unlimited possibilities and opportunities today. So you have a good product, I think definitely you should go out and do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, fintech again does not necessarily mean just the startups itself.
Yeah.
So, like for example, if you come and work within my structure, we run it as a small fintech. So we do our own development, we do our own product conception, we take our own. So when I say fintech, I mean we need to go out and look at technology-based solutions offering, be it in the established industry or be it the startups. I think both of those, the key is go out, look for new solutions, new ideas, and experiment with those, and go out and engage with those kind of opportunities instead of just going with the standard old given things which are generally considered to be safe bets.
Right. So there we have it. We've had almost a 1-hour session on talking about various facets on building a career in the financial technologies, or what we know as fintech. It's more than just a buzzword, and it's the most important thing and the key takeaway, I think, from the session is that you have to be extremely passionate about, one, the technology part, the finance part, and also making an impact and making a difference in whatever sector or field that you do. But we have to warn you that it is not, while it is so exciting, it may not be the easiest thing to do. So I'd like to thank both our guests, Saleem Ropani from ForeePay and also Abrar Mir from HDL. Not HDL, sorry, my sincere apologies. HBL. आपने अपना plug खुद कर दिया, मैंने कहा मैं इसका थोड़ा सा मजाक उड़ा दूं. I'd also like to give a shout out to the bloggers and the students who were online and also asking questions and tweeting and talking about this on social media. Specifically, I'd like to give a shout out to Anam Jaffe, who's our official CCD blogger for this series. So thank you very much for making this series a very big success. I would like to give a small token of appreciation to Abrar.
Thank you.
Some things you can't do virtually.
Yeah.
Unless you're sending us money, so please do so.
Thank you very much.
So that is something from you. I would also like to thank the partner universities. We do realize it's holiday season and it's also exam time, but for you to take the time out now and to continuously take the time out to be part of our sessions, that is a fantastic opportunity, or should I say a fantastic opportunity for you to do so. And the more questions that you'd like to send and interact with these two gentlemen or our previous guests, please feel free to get in touch with us. Again, log on to www.thenewspaces.com, look us up on social media, and of course, if you are a university and would like to be part of our Campus Connections digital series or otherwise, please do reach out to us at info@thenewspaces.com. Our next session will be announced on our website, and we will address the issue of what are some of the hottest jobs and careers out there, in addition to the ones that we are already talking about, which pay you the most, but what kind of studying you need to do in your universities and what kind of courses you should be taking up. So stay tuned to our website for that. And with that, this is Rabia Gharib signing out.